Welcome to the Anonymous Andrew podcast. Life and the choices we make, the choices other people make. This podcast explores all things as they relate to dating and romantic relationships. Why we ignore or choose to ignore or miss the red flags. Red flags like gaslighting, cheating, lying, narcissistic behavior, deception, addiction, and so much more. Join me each week as we continue my journey into the modern dating world. With my weekend rants, anonymous guest dating stories, and experts who share their wisdom so we can better navigate the dating terrain. If you are new to the show or have been with me from the beginning, hold on tight for the Anonymous Andrew experience. Greetings, Anonymous Andrew podcast, life and the choices we make. Okay, this is embarrassing and I'm quite frustrated. My next guest on this episode is Will Morales from People on Dating. And Will had me on his show a couple of months ago. And I really like Will's podcast. And I was honored to be on his podcast. So I invited him on my podcast. And we did one recording about a month and a half ago. And it didn't record well. And it's because I use a software called Riverside. And I mention that because I'm having a lot of problems with Riverside. So we recorded the episode again, and the same problem. You can't hear the guest. You hear me loud and clear, but the guest sounds like he's way off in the distance. And as you may know, there's been 1 or 2 reviews left on my Apple podcast telling me that my audio sucks. And I acknowledged that, and I told everybody I went and fixed it because I contacted Riverside, and they told me to do A, B, and C. And A, B, and C worked for a little while until it didn't work anymore. And I'm having the problem again. And I contacted Riverside several times over the last week, and they went in and out looking at all sorts of things, and of course they pointed the finger at me and the settings, and yet nothing changed. There was I have done nothing different with the settings since I've been using this software for the past 5 months, whatever. So this episode you're going to hear Will, the guest. It's going to be very low. And I apologize. And I apologize to Will, and I apologize to my audience. However, I was able to get a good, clean copy on YouTube. And so if you would rather just go down to the show notes, it's right underneath the description of this podcast, of this episode, is the link to the YouTube version of this interview, where there is a better version of the interview where you can hear Will very well. And so I almost kind of recommend stop listening to this episode and just click on the link in the show notes, or go down to my YouTube channel, and it'll be the last episode, the last YouTube video that I posted. And I apologize to Will, and I apologize to my audience, and I'm really upset with Riverside. It's a lot of money for this software. It's a premier podcast editing software, and I'm having nothing but problems lately, and nothing's changed. I've had this software for months and months and months, and in the beginning it was great, and now all of a sudden I'm having all these audio issues, and they're not stepping up and helping me. And so I don't know whether I should call out Riverside itself, or Riverside's customer service, or their tech support, or whatever, but I'm telling you, nothing changed on my end. I have the same mic, the same PC, the same editing software. I have the same settings. Nothing has changed except the guests. And the guests are not supposed to have to do anything. They just hit record. I hit record, and they talk, and that's all there is to it. So, anyway, I'm off on a rant on the intro to an episode, but up next is my interview with Will Morales from People on Dating, a very good friend of mine. We're going to be doing some collaborations in the future. So, take a listen if you want, or just go down to YouTube and watch the whole thing down there. Talk to you on the other side. Ciao. Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Anonymous Andrew Podcast and Life and the Choices We Make. And today, I have a very special guest because he's becoming a friend of mine. His name is Will Morales. Welcome, Will, and good evening.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for having me on your show. I definitely feel the same way. I like talking to you, buddy. And when we have our last conversation on my podcast, I was thinking, I'm like, boy, I could talk to Andrew for a few hours. And
yeah. Well, let's let the audience in on some background. So, Will has a podcast, and it's called People on Dating, and he had me on his podcast. Maybe I don't know at this time. 2 months ago, give or take.
Something like that, yeah.
And then about a week ago, I invited him on my podcast, and I'm not afraid to say this because I'm open. The recording didn't work, so we're doing another one, part two. So the universe is forcing Will and I to meet up again, and I'm okay with that because Will's a great guy. So, Will, let's talk about you and your podcast. Tell the audience what your podcast is, what's it about, how you got there.
Yeah, sure. So it's called People on Dating, like Andrew mentioned before, and it's a podcast about stories, about dating stories. Now, over the last 6 months to a year, I've been having experts on, doctors, therapists, coaches, but the gist at the beginning of the podcast was to have, regular people that are having issues in dating and things like that, but it turned into more of a self-help podcast, which I didn't want it to go that way, to be honest with you, but some of my guests have had such great insights on dating that I said, well, maybe I'm onto something. But and I've been doing it now for about a year plus, and I enjoy it. I love having guests on, like I had Andrew on a while ago, so Andrew was forthcoming and everything. And that made me say, okay, because I don't do too many solo shows, but I'm going to do a solo show on simping and things like that. So this way, like Andrew says, people could relate to guys like us who've been out there and know, how the dating scene could suck.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I can say that word.
No, you can say anything you want. One thing about my show, it's completely unfiltered, and I do put the explicit warning sign on, so which is one of the great things about podcasts today. It's one of the true mediums that we have today that there is no oversight. Like the Federal Trade Commission can't say anything. YouTube, they can oversight you. They can TikTok, YouTube, all these social medias. They can actually edit you or kick you off or ban you or suspend you. Podcasting, basically, I'm jinxing myself now. I'll probably get kicked off. But you can come on here and really, I think, within reason. If you spew hatred or something else, I'm sure you'll get some issues. But it's one of the things about podcasting. And yes, Will and I are in the same genre. He is going through, well, tell the audience what you're going through, the dating process at this ripe age that we're at.
Yeah, I'm telling you, as I gotten older, I think, and I hate to say, because it's funny, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and she was telling me, I'm 61, she's 51, and we were talking about dating, and she pretty much summed it up. She said, man, I hate dating. It sucks, And I'm at that stage too because, when I was younger, you date to marry. And then as you get older, you date just to have a companion. And you get even older, you go, boy, I just want to hang out, I'm lucky I have good friends that I can hang out with. So that's my stress relief and things like that. But yeah, I mean, dating is, whew, man, in this day and age, I'm not even talking about the younger, I'm talking about older.
Yeah.
Everybody has issues. It happens. It's just what we do with those issues. You know, how do we keep them inside, or do you let them out? Do you let them out to a stranger? So I'm like 50-50 on dating. You know, sometimes I like it, sometimes I hate it. It's not the great answer I wanted to give, but
But it's the truth, and I have to agree with you. The younger, going back, I can remember meeting my first wife, and I met her at a job, and we fell for each other, dated for a year and a half, and then got married, and it was organic. There wasn't cell phones, there wasn't dating apps. You know, it was meeting. If you really think about it, cell phones and dating apps are all within the last 15 years.
yeah,
Maybe if you stretch it, like Match.com and eHarmony, I think were somewhere around 2008. But they were desktop. They weren't on a cell phone. You'd have to log on to a computer. This is all new.
yeah.
So for people like in our generation, this style of dating, logging onto apps, uploading pictures, and having to text to people, and swiping, and no.
Yeah, I'm not on any dating app because I'm like you, Andrew. I want to meet someone in person, so I go to networking events. I go singles events, even though I haven't been since pre-pandemic. But I like to go to events and meet someone there. I want to see their reaction. I want to see their face. I want to see their voice go up and down, whatever. You can't tell on a text. Even if they capitalize those letters, that doesn't mean anything to me.
No. And so much gets lost. You don't see body language.
Yeah.
You don't get the true meaning. Even in a relationship, the last relationship I had, we texted, and she would misunderstand something that I texted. Of course, she was a Latina, so a lot of times there was a cultural difference. But you still can't pick up what you're really trying to say. Tell us, so the last time you and I spoke, and the recording never made it on the air because whatever reason, you told a great story, and I really would like you to tell it again, how you met the woman that you're currently dating.
Yeah, so this one, if I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember the story because I know it was I think if I remember, I met her through a mutual friend, and it was in the park. I think it was in Central Park. And
Correct.
Usually I don't meet anyone there. And this is in New York City, for your audience and my audience that might not know Central Park in New York. Anyway, I think it was through a mutual friend. Long story short, me and her kind of hit it off. She has a daughter that's 23, 24, something like that. And basically, we've been hanging out. She's 51, I'm 61. And pretty much the relationship has its ups and downs. Let's put it that way.
Which one? But what relationship doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. So with this one, her mom is kind of sick, so she's pretty much spending a lot of time with her mother. So I'm not seeing her as much as I wanted to from before. But we do talk on the phone, not text. We do talk.
Good.
And when we talk, minimum conversation might be 30 minutes. Sometimes it's over an hour. And we just talk about things. Let's get together. Let's hang out. One of the things that she likes about me is that I start planning dates. And it's funny, Andrew, I was one of those that I didn't mind deferring to the woman to plan dates. Then I realized some women don't like that. Or
right.
Not, maybe most women don't like that. So
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, now with this, like I said, this recent 15 years of dating apps and all that, there's all these new rules. And we talked about this last time. But I want you to finish your story. But we could talk about, why does you like to? Some women don't want you to defer them to plan the date. Some do, but who cares? I think it comes down to communication, and just find out what the other person's if you'll know early in meeting them what if they want to be the old fashioned way and have you plan everything, you'll know pretty much quickly. But finish your story. I want you to.
Yeah. So anyway, so with this woman, I, one of the things that I changed about myself, and I think I mentioned this the last time, where now I draw boundaries, I have a criteria where I didn't before.
Right.
So what happened before, and this was in 2018, 2019, I was basically a simp for this particular woman. I pretty much spent thousands of dollars on her,
Yep.
lost it because I didn't gain anything back. I didn't gain any sex, anything like that at all. I was just whatever she wanted, I would do.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it took me so long to realize it. I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm not getting any reciprocation from this woman, no affection, nothing, just pushback, some arguments, some name calling. And I'm telling you, Andrew, it was the hardest thing to admit. And this was in June of 2020, when everything was finally over because we had rented a place for business. We got into business together, which was a mistake of mine. So anyway, when I realized all the money I spent and lost and not getting any sexual satisfaction, because anytime I try to make a move, Andrew, it was, no, I'm not ready. No, it's too soon. This is 6, 7, 8, 9 months into our relationship. So after a while, so this is 2018, September, I think, of 2018 through pretty much January of 2019. That's when I decided, okay, we have a couple of businesses, or at least one business together. I might as well just write it out. And then in the spring of 2019, she wanted to do another business. And of course, my red flags went up.
Yep.
I said, no. In my mind, I'm saying, no, 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 no. But of course I did. Because I still care for her. Even though I wasn't getting any sex from her, I couldn't help it. I just liked that I didn't have the abundance mentality that I thought she was the only one. This is the one I want to be with. But it just got worse. So
Let me,
again,
let,
yeah, go ahead.
let me ask you something. Besides not getting sex, were you getting your emotional needs met?
No, she's very detached. I
Yeah.
mean, even I remember her daughter. I think she has a daughter, if I remember correctly. I can't believe it's already 4 or 5 years. And I think the daughter said, "Mom, you're not emotionally available. You never were."
Right.
When I heard that, I said, "Oh shoot, okay, now I'm seeing the pattern here." But by 2019, pretty much, in fact, I remember correctly, May of 2019, we went out to this place together, and I remember she was dancing. And Andrew, before I know I would have been jealous, I would have been pissed. I saw her dancing with a couple of guys. I saw her particularly hug one guy that's probably around our age. And she was blasted. She one of those things that she drank a little bit and it went straight to her head and she was done. And I swear I wasn't even mad. I laughed it off. I even took a picture of it. I took a picture of it and I showed it to her. I said, "Well, you have more affection for him than you ever did for me." And I laughed it off, whatever. She goes, "Oh, I don't remember doing that." I'm like, "Well, yeah, this is the picture to prove it."
Yeah.
Anyway, so by then, of almost 6 months of supposedly dating, my emotions were gone for her. I didn't have any more emotions. I couldn't even stand being in the same room with her, and she knew it because we would argue. And I remember one time she asked me, because mind you, I put up the money for these businesses, short-term rentals, and she had asked me to co-sign for another. I think it was.
Oh my God.
Loan. She went to the well a third time, and I'm telling you, Andrew, I was so pissed that I said no.
Good.
No. You could do it, or her father. Oh, he won't do it. Well, I'm not doing it either. I wouldn't have met this young lady if I wasn't dating you. There was no way I would have met her. So no, I'm not doing it. So
and her father didn't give her the money because he probably knew her. He knew better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to co-sign. I already had put my name on a couple of properties and businesses, and anyway. So by June of 2020, everything was done with the short-term rentals and everything. I took pretty much the rest of 2020 off to work on myself. I'm talking about reading, going on podcasts, just learning about the female nature and what the hell am I doing wrong.
Well,
Yeah,
this is where you and I continue to have like a similarity. So our podcasts are almost similar. Like we're both on this journey. This last relationship with this woman that you had is almost identical to the one I had, although I did get sex, but I didn't get any emotional attachment. She was, if you know the attachment theory, she was avoiding attachment. So I got the sex, I got friendship. She would hang out, we would have fun, but there was never that. Oh, I don't even know how to say it, but when a woman would come up to you and give you a hug and look up in your eyes and just give you that look of love, I wouldn't get that. So the point is I'm getting is that, and then I took a year off. So it's like, which I'm still in. I'm in that year off. Well, I'm a little over a year off now, and I'm still. So, but you were, so after, to continue the story, after the year.
Yeah, so I took, like I said, the rest of 2020 off, which is from June through probably longer than 6 months, probably until, spring of 2021, if I remember correctly. Then I started dating again, and then, on and off. But I this time around, I just started setting boundaries. I started telling women, this is what I do, this is what I like to do. If you're cool with it, great. I would love to hang out with you. If not, no worries, I'll move on. So it took a while for me to be that way, because I was always nice, I was always friendly, I was always available. Things that women don't like in most men. In fact, in probably all men, always being available, always being there. And I was always there, because I didn't have the abundance mentality that there were other women that were like me. So, again, after working on myself, and I still am to this day, it's never a stop learning process. It's always learning, because you're going to meet different women, different situations, different scenarios. So, so when I met this woman, the one I'm seeing now, told her straight up. I said, listen, I like this type of music. I like roller skating on the weekends. I don't give up that. I do smoke weed, even though it's recreational, not a lot. I might go months without it. This is who I am. If you're cool with that, I would love to see you. I'd like to take you out. And believe it or not, she was fine with it. She didn't, because I think when I told her that I'm not a big time smoker, which I'm not, she was cool with it, and I was just upfront with her. I said, listen, I like you. I find you attractive. I would like to take you out. Boom. And it's been, what now? I met her, if I remember correct, again, in my timeline, I think last summer. In fact, it was October of 2022. That's when I met her. That's
okay.
If I remember correctly. And then last year, we hung out a lot. We got great chemistry. And where we are now, we just like each other's company, and we love talking on the phone with each other. Like I said, usually it's a minimum of a half hour, sometimes over an hour.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
How often? I understand her. She's got a family that's not doing well, so she has to tend to them. But how often do you get together?
We try to get together at least once or twice a week. Minimum.
Oh,
twice.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. But sometimes we might go a couple of weeks without seeing each other, but we always make up for it.
Yeah.
By hanging out, maybe a couple of days. But we try to talk all the time. Maybe not every day, but at least 3-4 times a week if we don't see each other because of any issues that she might have.
I think that's going to pay off. I think once, at some point, that issue will resolve itself.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, maybe not for the best, but it'll get resolved. And she'll be able to give more time to you or to the relationship. And maybe you'll then begin to build upon that. But it sounds like right now you're building a foundation.
So far, yeah, definitely. I do like her. She likes me. I haven't met her daughter yet because, she's...
Okay.
Which is fine with me. I have no issues with that. And she asked me, I know you haven't met my daughter. Oh, don't worry about it. When the time is right, the time is right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I don't worry about those things anymore.
It's fun. Let me tell you a little story that I learned, a big lesson. I used to introduced to either my adult. I had 3 boys that are grown, and if I had a new girlfriend, I wanted them to meet her like right away. My oldest son, and I know he listens to this podcast, so I'm sorry for repeating this story. He got married 5 years ago, or maybe 8 years ago, something like that. And I was dating a woman, and we were only 6 months in, and I knew deep down inside that this woman wasn't a keeper. I just knew, but she was pretty, and we didn't have arguments. It was actually a very nice, pleasant relationship, and if I might say so, she was even arm candy, you know. So I was the father of the groom at this wedding, and of course I had a +1. So I invited her to the wedding, and she said to me, I don't think I should come because we're a new relationship and I'm going to be in all these pictures. And she was kind of trying to tell me that we didn't have a future together. But I didn't want to hear it. I said, nope, I'm the groom's father. I want a woman on my arms, you know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And sure enough, she came to the wedding, but here it is 9 years later, and she's not in my life anymore. I don't even know where she is. Yeah. And now my son has all these photographs of a woman who is not in my life anymore. And it's pretty, so I think the point I'm getting at is don't introduce them to your kids until you're really, really, especially if you're going to go to a wedding with them.
Yeah. No, 100%.
You know, I stopped. I'll tell you another story. The last relationship I was in, which was all about my podcast. My podcast is all about. I took her to Miami and I introduced her to my son down there, and because he lives down there, and she left me down there. I told you in the story, right? Yeah. And I went to my son's apartment that day, and I said to her, you're not going to believe this, but she left me. And he looked at me, and he said, Dad, I don't know when you're going to catch on, but this is why I don't try to get close to your girlfriend, because they never stick around. And that's the story of my life, and that's why I started this podcast, and that's why I'm taking the time off, because I can find women tomorrow. I can't keep them. And even my children can see that, and it took me a long time for me to understand that. So no more meeting a family until something solid, you know.
I'm pretty sure she feels the same way, so that's why. And I don't take offense to anything like that. And the thing is, Andrew, you know, like for me, when I went through that period of simping for this woman, it was hard to even think about, like, what the hell am I doing? You know, that I had to admit it to myself that this is what I was doing. Just what I was.
Explain simping. Yeah. We talked about this last time, and it is something that's come up many times, and I know what it means, but just in case somebody doesn't.
It's not a new word. It's, you know, it comes from simpleton, being just, you know, like the word simple, things go by you, you don't think or whatever. In the dating realm or sphere, is pretty much where you put out for a woman in terms of your honesty, your love, your whatever you may have of value to that woman, and it doesn't get reciprocated back.
Right.
And with this woman, nothing was given back.
Nothing.
Just cold, whatever. And the thing is, guys and women, there's always red flags, and I ignored a bunch of them.
Oh my God.
Early on, Andrew. I mean, she told me her history. So you talk about 2018, telling me her sexual history, and it went in one ear and out the other. So
well, go ahead. You know my story, and I told you on your podcast, and I told you about all the red flags that I ignored in the beginning, all of them. She was divorced from her husband, but still lived with him. I'm not going to go through them all now, but in the beginning, and this is why they say love is blind. We're infatuated with this person, and like you said, you hear something or see something, and it goes in one ear out the other, or you ignore it because you don't either really want to believe it, or you just think it'll go away, or but it's those. And there's a saying: the red flags that you ignore in the beginning are the same flags that are going to end the relationship, and that's exactly what happened to you. I would imagine.
Oh no, definitely. Like I said, it was just too many at the beginning flags to it that I ignored, and like I said, I think I told you the story. I heard what she said, but I didn't listen.
Right.
Like I said, when in one ear and out the other. So then I just started reliving that after 2020, and I said, my God, I have to listen. I cannot just hear someone. I have to listen to the words, pay attention. And listen, it's not only men that simp, women have simp too, because I know a couple of my female friends have done it. So it's not only men, but for some reason, men tend to do it more than women.
Mm.
As some of my friends have done it. I've done it plenty of times. I was, and it's funny because back in the 80s, being a nice guy was a good term.
Yeah.
Now, 30,
Yeah.
40 years later, being a nice guy is a death sentence because you
Yeah.
end up in the friend zone somehow.
I think simping is synonymous. I'm not trying to be a therapist or a psychoanalyst or any sort of dating coach or whatever, but if you know the attachment styles, you got avoidant attachment, you got anxious attachment, you got I forget there's like 5 attachment styles. The simp is the anxious attachment style. You're constantly have anxiety in that relationship. Will this person love me? Will this person reciprocate? Will this person ever fully come on? The avoidant attachment never fully comes on board the relationship.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
And that's what I wanted. When we talked about getting the second property, I didn't want to do it. I mean, my stomach was turning and warning, but I said, again, fooling myself, man, if I get this, maybe she will love me. Maybe she would come around. Nah,
Right.
It was worse off. I'm here in Manhattan. She's in, Long Island somewhere. So, it was crazy. It was crazy.
And I did the same thing. The woman that I was with had a business at home that did very well before COVID hit. And COVID, I don't want to say what it was, but it was an in-home business, and she had to shut it down. It was just one of those businesses that you couldn't hold during COVID. And COVID went on longer than we thought, so she decided that she was going to get out of the business. All of a sudden, COVID, the vaccines come around, and then they lifted everything. And about 6 months later, she said to me, I think I want to start my business up again. And because she wasn't working, at least legally, people know my story, she was doing something else. She said to me, but I really don't have the money to invest in it, because she sold all of the stuff. Let's say you have a business and you're not going to have it anymore. So you sell the furniture, you sell the computers, you sell whatever. She sold everything. So what did I do? I jump into action, and I jump on eBay, I jump on Facebook, and I start buying all this stuff for her. And then we started promoting it. I bought her ads in newspapers because she finally went and got licensed again, and she created a corporation. She did that part, but she needed money to promote it, and I did all the promotion work, and probably $3,000 to $5,000 I put up for her. 3 months later is when the relationship ended, and I'll never see that money, And I looked up recently, and her business is up and running and doing well.
Yeah. I said the same thing. It's a loss of money, which was a lot of money, but I figured, you know what? I got peace of mind. That's all I can say. And I told some of my friends some of the story. The story I'm telling you and your audience. That if I was to see her again, I'll be cordial. I would. I have, I said, it's my fault. Go ahead.
Don't you have still some business together?
No, that's all done.
Oh, it is done.
Yeah,
okay.
It's all done in 2020 was done. I'll be cordial because, again, Andrew, I take blame because I said yes. I wasn't forced to it. I wasn't, they didn't, as they say, they didn't put a gun to your head. I just willingly did it. And I said, okay, I have to stop that. Listen, I did it the same thing with my sisters, where I was supposed to be lending money. turned out to be giving them money.
Yep.
And I stopped that. But again, it took a while because I always wanted to please people, and I of course I had to do some studying to realize why. And when I realized it, I'm like, okay, now it all makes sense. But yeah, with her, and in 2020, that was the last time I said no more. That's it. Now when I see any type of woman that I know, friends or whatever, I just tell them straight up, whatever. Even when I've gone to like singles events, at the time, I would tell the woman straight up, hey, I'm going to pick you. Especially when you do speed dating, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to wait till the end and hand the person the names that you're interested in. No, I go straight up, Andrew, and tell them, listen, I'm going to pick you. If you pick me, great. I would like to take you out. If not, no worries. We'll just move on. I tell them straight up. And that's it. And it was a little bit of changes here and there. But again, it's just having boundaries. Women have them. We should have them as well.
See, I like the way you think, Will, because I don't know if it's a generational thing.
I think so. I definitely I think so.
Because all these rules that either Gen X or Gen V or whatever the hell generations are running the apps today, it's these rules that if you go on the first date, you have to wait 3 days before you text. And I'm sick of the protocols that this younger generation has put in place of how you're supposed to conduct yourself in a dating. You're supposed to split the tab at the first restaurant. No, I can hear it in you. So you went to a video speed dating thing, and I don't know if you broke the rules, but you said, I'm not going to do what they tell me. I like this woman, and I'm going to tell her so.
And I did. I told her straight up right there. And it was speed dating, so it was, in person. So you have 5 minutes with someone.
Right.
And at the time, I just told her, I said, listen, I'm going to pick you.
Yeah.
I find you interesting. If you're willing to go hang out, pick me. If not, no worries. We just keep moving. That's it.
Yeah.
Straight up. And that again, I think the person that was running that event was probably, I don't know, just like Gen Z, Gen X, whatever they are, 20s and 30s. And I'm like, no.
No.
Yeah, because the age was 50 and up. And I'm like, no, this is what I'm doing. That's it.
Oh. So you're having somebody who has no experience in dating running a 50 and over dating thing.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've never done is speed dating. So this was an in-person, right?
Yeah, it's in person. You have 5 minutes with the person across from you, and then as the men move, and then the women stay. So there could be 8 tables, 10. It depends on who signs up.
Right.
They try to make it even, 10 and 10. Let's throw that number, and then you just move around. You have 5 minutes. And then you write notes after. You got like a minute break. And then you write the notes of, hey, I like so-and-so, nah, she wasn't my type, whatever. And then at the end of the night, you hand it to the organizer. Then they send you an email. Hey, you got picked by so-and-so.
Interesting.
And then you just start emailing each other.
I got to look into one of those things.
I think you'll have a good time, Andrew.
If nothing else, just for content for the podcast, because
and it's funny because I haven't done it since, so I thought the same thing you are. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should go back to these things because I haven't done it in so long. Because I'll have content. Maybe without them looking, I could just do a quick film.
Yeah, I pretty much got off all the dating apps. I was on all of them in the past 6 months. Hinge, Bumble, eHarmony, OurTime. I just name them. I was on them either for 3 months or trial or whatever. The only one that I'm still on is Facebook dating, and it's the best one that I have found, and it's free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody told me about them, but I never joined. I'm not in any apps.
A couple of years ago, I don't think it was run the way it's run today. Today, I like what they're doing, and it's free because if you think about it, Facebook already has, I'll pick a number, let's say 50 million people already in the database. Yeah. So you sign up and say, I would like to now date people in that database, and you create a profile just like any other app. And it's just like any other app, but it's free. But what I like about it is they send you. One of the things about dating apps is like you and I live in New York, right? Yeah. I'll get people from Connecticut or Pennsylvania or Maryland. I got somebody from Texas one day. I'm like, What am I going to fly to Texas? Facebook will literally give you people in your town, and because everybody has Facebook, you know. Anyway, I over the last couple of weeks, I've connected with a few women, and there's a couple on there I'm really liking, and we had a couple of great chats. But as usual, it died at the chat. I said to the woman, I'd like to get this off Facebook. So I have a, by the way, for anybody who's dating, you should have a second phone number, right? Google will give you a phone number. There are plenty of apps out there. Some are free, some are ad supported, some are you have to pay a fee. I downloaded an app. I have a second phone number. I don't use my real phone number anymore. And there's a reason why, and I'll maybe if we have time, I'll get into that. Yeah. But well, I'll tell you why. Because if you're talking to a woman and you give her your real phone number, they have Instagram. Instagram will say to them, "Oh, this person and you are in each other's contacts," and you probably don't have this issue, but you have a podcast, but you're dating somebody who she knows you have a podcast, right? Yeah. I think I don't know if I told you the story. I went on a date 2 months ago, and I came back and I talked about the date on the podcast. 2 days later, the woman heard the podcast, and she got very angry.
Yeah, I remember you told me that one.
Yeah. So I don't, and she only found me because she had my real phone number. So I now have a second number. Okay. Anyway, I gave my number to two of these women. I said, let's get off the app and let's start texting and maybe this weekend we'll talk on the phone or do crickets. Man. All of a sudden, when I gave them the phone number, nothing. Until this morning, one of them said, I'd like to see your Facebook profile first. And I'm like, why?
Wow.
Why? I'm going to talk to you on the phone. What? I don't. My Facebook profile, I have two. I have a personal one and I have the podcast one. Why do you know, if you want to get to know me, talk to me. Don't look at my Facebook page. Right. I don't even update it. I don't even keep it updated. So.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I added anything on. I can't even remember the last picture I posted. I'm hardly on it. I get on because there's a group. I think it's called Podcast and Radio Group.
Yep.
I think I told you about that one. So that's pretty much I'm on there all the time posting my show and things like that. But other than that, I look on it for a few minutes. I get ideas because some people post dating stories. So I might get ideas and write it down. But for most part, I might post a picture here and there. Not a lot.
I belong to a group. I'm not going to promote it during our episode, but people who are listening, I'm investigating the Twin Flames universe. So I got that idea from Facebook. So you're a guest on my show. We talked a little bit about your podcast, but let's talk a little bit more about it. So for a couple of years, you were doing the audio version. You were on Apple and Spotify and all the rest. Now you are
strictly YouTube. I found that more and more people were watching the videos, or at least turning it on YouTube, more so than downloading it on audio. So I just decided to get rid of it and just strictly YouTube. Like sometimes I might post YouTube video without my face, just my logo, whatever. I might do that. But it's easier editing when I do the video. So I prefer video anyway. It's just easier to edit than audio. Yeah.
And Google, Google's getting rid of Google Podcasts. They're all migrating it to YouTube. Yeah. So for you, it's gonna be a no-brainer and make sense. Yeah. You're gonna get more audience coming to your YouTube channel. So
I prefer it that way anyway. So I just gotta fix my website because sometimes when people log onto it, it's the first thing they see.
Is the audio.
It's the audio. So I'm like, I gotta call the website host and say, hey, when somebody logs on, I want them to see this instead of that, So I think it's just probably just turning off a notification or something.
Yeah. Well, if this recording goes well, I will put this on YouTube for us. So,
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to take your cue. I think I'm going to post more on YouTube now.
Yeah, I think you should. Definitely. You have a lot to say. So, and I like your show. So I definitely think you should do YouTube.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. That was very kind of you to say. So, all right. Well, it's listen. It's late Friday night for both of us. We've this is our second time, but I don't think it'll be our last time either.
No, definitely not. Definitely.
Any parting thoughts you'd like to leave the audience? Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, peopleondating.com. That's peopleondating.com. And pretty much for dating, and since we talk about pretty much our age, communication. That's one of the things, like I said to myself, if I write a book or an ebook, that'll be, I'll do it in reverse from 15 to 15 to 1, and 1 will be communication.
Communication.
I talk to a lot of my female friends, women in general, and they always want to talk.
Yep.
Communicate.
I 100% agree.
And that's what it is. It might be hard. It might not be your style, but at the end of the day, you have to say what you're feeling, and if they don't like it, then that's on them, not on you.
Yeah.
I've gotten told things I didn't like, but I had to take it and process it. That's it.
Yeah. If you don't communicate, you can't move forward. And some people might argue, well, like in my last relationship, I could argue that the communication there was full of lies because she would sit there and lie to me. But you know what? As long as there's a dialogue, it doesn't matter. You can work out the lies later or whatever. If you don't sit down and talk, if you presume something, if you guess or assume something, you have to talk. You have to sit down and you have to listen. It's not just talking.
That's the biggest thing, yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I didn't learn back then. Now I learned to listen to every word. I'll ask her to repeat it. Ask her, I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yes, repeat.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard it. Yeah, so, and I didn't do that. Like I said, with the red flags in 2020 or 2018, it went one ear and out the other.
The other. Oh, God.
You can hear her, but you have to listen.
We got to plug that hole in the middle of the head so they can't go out.
100%, yeah.
All right, Lil, everybody, this is Will Morales from a podcast called People on Dating, and you can find him on YouTube now. I guess they just go to YouTube and type in People on Dating.
People on Dating, Will Morales, and you'll find it. You'll see the logo there.
And one thing that I applauded you last time, and I want to bring it up again. A couple of episodes, I don't know what episode you're up to now, Will went down to the streets of Manhattan with a microphone, and he interviewed people on the street. I think you talked to women about what they, tell quickly what they...
I forgot what episode it is. I should know this by heart, but I asked about 8 to 10 women, 30 seconds to a minute each, what is it they notice about a man? What's the first thing they notice? That's what it was, yeah. And so I have a male version doing it. I just got to interview a couple of more guys. And then I'm going to post that one up, which I should have done it. So it's going to be like 8-9 months later, but
it doesn't matter. It's great.
I'm going to have the guys turn.
It's great content.
When I see you one of these days, I'm going to ask you.
Excellent. Yeah. Hey, be happy to. All right. Will, have a great evening, and thank you for joining us. And everybody, check out Will's podcast on YouTube, People on Dating.
Thank you. My pleasure, Andrew.
I would like to thank Will very much for coming back and doing a second interview. And if you made it this far, thank you for hanging in there. But again, if you did make it this far, but you didn't hear much of what Will said, just please go to my YouTube channel. It's in the show notes. And just listen or watch the video down there and you'll get the whole thing. And please... Here's where I ask for a review, but I'm not even going to ask today because it's just horrible, and I don't want to get more bad audio reviews. So all I'm going to say is if you're going to get into a relationship, I want you to think long and hard. Is this person the right person for me? Did I miss any red flags? Because in the beginning, we are blind. We just see all the good in somebody. But in the beginning or in the middle of the courtship, you may have heard something or saw something that you ignored because love is blind. And look, I'm not looking to break relationships up or stop people from getting into relationships. I just know what happened to me. I fell for a woman hard, and I just ignored the giant size red flags that were just waving in front of me. I just pushed them aside and said, nope, 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 nope. And in the end, it was the same red flags that ended the relationship. So I'm just asking, just take a few days and just look, think. And I really hope that you do get involved and you do get committed and you do get engaged and you do get married and everything's fine. But it doesn't hurt to go back and just give it some thought. Until next time, Anonymous Andrew. Ciao.